Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Slowpreneur. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Stephanie Pellet, and I am your host on this slowpreneurship journey. On this podcast, we talk about all things sustainable and intentional and balanced business. And I'm really happy to know that you're out there and that you care about these subjects too. That makes me so thrilled. It also makes me so thrilled to bring you this interview today with my new friend, Géraldine Jippé of the Slow is Good podcast and the co-founder of the Slowpreneur Summit. Géraldine actually found me by searching the word slowpreneur, which I just love because it just shows me that there are more people out there who think like me and these whole communities that exist that I don't even know about because Géraldine is in Montreal. She's originally from Paris and is involved with an entire slowpreneurship community that I wasn't aware of, but I'm so excited to be connecting with now. So thank you to the term slowpreneur for bringing us all together. That makes me so happy. In this interview, you're going to hear from Géraldine about how she kind of learned the hard way that she needed to prioritize slowness in her life and business. And she also talks a lot about balancing motherhood and the examples that she wants to set for her son while building her business. Géraldine is an amazing coach and consultant and mentor for thoughtful entrepreneurs like you who want the chance to slow down and build businesses that last. And I was really excited to connect with her and hear about her definitions of slowpreneurship and what she's learned on her journey. So without further ado, let's jump right into this interview with Géraldine Jippé. Hello. Hi, Géraldine. Thank you for joining me for Slowpreneur. I'm so excited to connect with you and talk to you again.
Hey, hi, Stephanie. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Yes. And we met because you found me on the internet
Yes,
from
yes,
using the word slowpreneur. Is that right? We found each other
abso-
through slowpreneurship.
absolutely. So I was navigating the web and I was doing some research on entrepreneurship because I wanted to write something actually, and I stumbled upon your website, then your Instagram, then I started to stalk you a little. But I was kind of very excited to see that the community actually is becoming bigger when it comes to entrepreneurship, which when I actually decided to take a step back in what I do for a living as an entrepreneur, then I realized that it's becoming a bigger community. And I really love that because, like a couple of years ago, it was not that many people that were actually talking about slow what it means, what it is, and how it impacts, entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I just love that story so much because, as you said, it points to this movement that I think we're both a part of. And the fact that we can find each other now, thanks to the beauty of the internet. You're in Montreal, I'm in Toronto. And to just be able to connect over our values, I was so excited when
Yeah.
you reached out to me because I just thought to myself, wow, like there's this whole other group of people who are also in this same space and have the same values as me, and that was just so exciting because sometimes you feel alone. I'm sure you get that, right? You're trying to build this business in a way that's
Yeah.
not the most traditional, and that can sometimes
hmm
be lonely.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially early days where most of the models that I have for myself were very fast paced, like kind of businesses.
Mm,
And I've seen too many of our, of our entrepreneurs, burning out, getting some disease. Even myself, I went through some of it. And then this is the reason why I decided like there must be like a better way just to be living a normal and enjoyable life without, all nerve wracking, actions that you need to take and decisions that will
mhm,
actually burn you out along the way. And this is
mhm.
how I decided to put some foundation for more slower, impactful, and more meaningful action as well in my business.
I love that so much. And let's just dive into that because I really want to hear more about your journey to slowpreneurship. But can you start by telling us the end? So, where you are now, what you're kind of doing in your everyday business, and then we can back up and talk about, how you got there because I'm sure it's an interesting
Oh my
story.
God. It's such a, I mean, it's very exciting. I don't know if I should say exciting. I should say like I learned the hard way. Mm, really.
Mm.
But what I
Hmm.
do these days is to advise and grow with entrepreneurs that want to, be visible on the internet. I do coach them, but using different methods, like from slowpreneurial, regenerative businesses leadership, but also I do use
Mm.
mindset, but also energetics. This is basically what I do. And I
Yeah.
also support small businesses and corporations into integrating like digital marketing strategies, but with more consciousness, because that's very key. And there are a lot of things coming up, like the Slowpreneur Summit that will be coming in multiple chapters, the French edition and the English edition this fall.
Yes, so exciting. I
Yes.
cannot wait to talk to you about the Slowpreneur Summit because those words just light up my brain. I'm so excited about that. So yeah, okay. So I love that you're working with coaches in this way, coaches and business owners to coach them to build their business with more intention, do their marketing with more intention. I
Yeah.
just think it's beautiful how you've built that into kind of all the aspects of your business.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, talk to us about how you got here because I know that you probably did not start building
No,
in this kind of slow method.
I didn't start that way, because actually originally I'm from France. I was born and raised in Paris, and then when I actually moved in Canada in Montreal, then I started like the traditional way, working for different corporations, and but I wanted more, and so back then I was at the same time in parallel, like freelancing in all the tech
Hmm.
startup world, and I wanted more, and I was working 50, 60 hours a week, maybe more, sometimes 80 hours a week. And then I decided to create a startup with co founders, which we did. And we had to live the startup world life, right? Sleepless
Wow.
nights, countless sleepless nights, with a toddler, a 1 year old, and I got sick along the way. I got cancer. So
Oh
I
my
had,
gosh.
yeah, I went through the ups and downs of trying to push hard and harder, hustling. I hate that word, but hustling literally to make things happen. But in a way, I was taught how to do it. Like, I mean, the startup world is about like, go, 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 go. No matter what is going on, you need to go. And at some point, I realized, like, is it really what you want? I had to ask myself,
Mm.
is it really how you see yourself in 10 years from now, just hustling, not seeing your family, your husband, your kid? And I realized, like, is it really worth it? And even though I was sick, battling with cancer, I still decided to push through and keep working on that startup with my co-founders, because for me, it was just like kind of a way just to, not to think about the disease and the impact on me, my family, etc. But I realized, like, we all need to have that step back and be able to breathe, to live what we have to go through. And this is where I realized, like, it was not necessarily good for myself nor for the family. And I decided, you know what, there are better ways to do business, there are better ways to
Mm.
impact people, there are better ways to make a difference. And I had to slow down. Was not easy, I'm not gonna lie, because I was so used and so addicted to overwork myself and being pushing everything that I could push, that for me I was stressed just the fact to say, okay, I'm gonna go out for a walk and just breathe out there. And it was that bad, right? It's like I was a junkie, a workaholic. And
Yeah.
I had to put like things in perspective, for my recovery, for my family's recovery as well, and also to keep thinking about how I want this business to grow. And I had to put like a strategy in place so that I could slow down with intentions and be more mindful about how I can show as well my clients, like small businesses, but also uh, um, all the entrepreneurs and solopreneurs that I coach, that really there are ways you can have really tangible results without burning yourself to the ground, right? And
Yeah.
it's like that. And I decided to, okay, soloprenneurship is fine. There are a lot of people who actually criticize me for that, simply because it's
Mm.
not something that people talk a lot. Well, back then, people were not used to talk about slowpreneurship a lot. I even received like very judgmental comment on the internet saying that yes, it's because like I'm supported by someone else, but it was not about that.
Mm,
It was just like, you know, going back to what's really important in life. Yes, our businesses are very important, but at the end of the day, even though we love our job, we love what we our opportunities and the community as well, but at the end of the day, what matters is who you are with, your family, your loved ones. And so that's how I decided just to little by little, remove a few things here and there and, be able to breathe, starting gardening, playing the music back. I'm a harpist, playing
oh,
capoeira.
amazing.
Playing
Oh.
capoeira. I'm a capoeirista. Yes, I do love too many things. But all that to say that, finding that balance in life where you can also enjoy life, even though you're building a business that will probably impact many of our lives and make money, with this business as well.
Mm. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. That is very tender to think about that time, right, in your life when you were pushing, you were trying this new thing that you I'm sure were so excited about, and then for it to kind of lead to such negative health outcomes and
Yeah.
pain and strife in your family, like that is a hard story, that's a difficult time in your life. So we really appreciate you kind of sharing that with us because I think it's a really important lesson, right? You mentioned we've been taught these ways of doing business,
Yes.
and I can imagine in a startup, you're getting pressures from your co founders, maybe if you had investment money of any kind, of the
Yes.
ways that you have to live and you have to do things in order to deliver the profit and the growth and the
It
results that someone
it
else wants that
it's
has
more.
nothing to do with your family.
Yeah, but it's more than the financial pressure, actually. It's just the entire ecosystem pressure because the
Mm,
incubators are built that way. You have to pitch every single week. Like you have to,
mm,
I don't know how many persons. You have to do, cold calling, like hardcore cold calling, like 100% a day. And these are, and I have nothing against this way of doing business. It's just like, it's not sustainable in the long run. It doesn't work that way. We are all humans at the end of the day.
yeah,
And my concern was when I actually decided to, shift the pace of how I wanted to do things was also that am I actually influencing and also teaching other entrepreneurs that burning yourself down is okay? It is not to me. It is clearly not. There are people have been running businesses for millennia, like really. And I doubt that the pressure was that strong in the sense that you have to burn your health, your everything just to be successful. And so I was actually reading, I think last year's Thrive
hmm
from Mrs.
Mariana
Huffington.
Huffington.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then I mean, she went to a point where she was literally down on the floor, realizing, like, okay, I need to do something because she was sleep deprived totally. And so her
yeah,
health, like, took a huge toll simply because she was prioritizing many things but her. And I
yeah,
think it doesn't mean to be selfish. It means that your primary resource when you build your venture, whatever it is you. So if you don't have your health, if you don't have your balance, how do you think you're going to keep going? And having that in mind, I had to realize that it's the same for me. If I'm not checking my health properly, that means I'm putting my family at risk at the same times.
right.
And in fine, my business too, because if I don't have my health, I cannot sustain my business at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's so
so
important.
yeah, and it was a hard lesson, but it was for me. I wouldn't say it's the case for everybody, but it was a necessary lesson for me to understand that
Mm,
I'm against the wall and I need to do something about this. I need to change things. I need to make it different because we can grow. We can. impact the world differently, and, sticking to our values. And slow, like I like to say, slow is good. It's not a bad
Yeah.
word. It's not like, you're spitting on somebody's face. Like, slow is okay because you take the time. And actually, what I see these days for all entrepreneurs qualifying themselves as slowpreneur or not, when they take the time, the results are more impactful and exponential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a really important thing to remember because when you get those wake up calls, it can feel like I don't know what to do. I only know what I've been doing, you know?
Yeah,
And I'm sure that it was such a process for you trying to figure out
yeah.
how to move forward in a new way. But I think for
Hmm.
a lot of us slowpreneurs, it came, unfortunately, most of the time because we hit some kind of a wall. And I
Yeah,
think what I love about your work and why I do the podcast that I do is because I really would like for people to not have to get to that wall, right? To not have
exactly.
to be like Ariana Huffington hitting her head on the desk in order to realize that what she was doing was unsustainable. I think that
Hmm.
that's why this podcast and telling these stories is hopefully to show a different way for people because as you said, we have these explicit and implicit pressures that this is the one way to do business. This is the most
Hmm.
important thing is to give everything you have to growing this business. But I love that you're also like expanding the scope and looking back to history and saying, the butcher back in the day who ran a family business in town, he wasn't staying up until midnight, probably like on Instagram doing some stories like, hey, y'all, come tomorrow to the butcher shop. Like, business has now taken over our lives in this really intense way. And I think it's really difficult to kind of fight back against those pressures
Yeah.
sometimes. But I think having models like you to share a new way can be so powerful for people to realize it is possible.
Yeah. And, I've been coaching in various industries, in the tech space, in the e-commerce space. And I was kind of, like surprised discussing with some of the entrepreneurs in the tech space, looking at me straight in the eyes, uh, literally like livid, and saying, "How do I rest?"
Mhm.
I thought it was a joke, to be honest, but it was not. Simply because there's so many decisions to be made. There's so many injunctions. There's so many priorities, and that they kind of lose the goal, the focus on what it is that is to be prioritized. And at some point, I had
Yeah,
to say, please shut down your computer and go to bed.
yeah,
And it's so sad, to see in these, entrepreneurs' faces that, can I really afford to sleep? Can I really
mm,
afford to be healthy? Because
yeah,
I have to talk to a VC in the morning, and my code is kind of full of mistakes and errors, and it's not working, and I have a demo next week. And this, I understand all that. But you squeezing your health, what's very important in developing the business, is it okay? Because nobody comments on that. And I think we are perpetrating like these strategies of burn, 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 burn. And then after that, we're just like surprised that the rate of entrepreneurs burned out, depressed, clinically depressed, developing hardcore disease. We didn't have that, and younger and younger. And so, in that sense, I'm just realizing that it's time to do something. It's time just to
yeah,
reconnect the dots and to make sure that yes, you take the decision to do some sort of sacrifice, growing your business, but not at all costs.
hmm, yeah,
Resting is important. Your health is important. And you communicating through the rest of the world that this is important is also key because we are influencing each other.
yeah. I think what you're saying is so true. And it's not just entrepreneurs. I think of people who work for businesses that are larger corporations.
Yeah.
We all have this same sickness of thinking that things need to be done faster, bigger, better, more.
Yeah.
And employees are having that same level of burnout because their
Yeah.
employers are expecting things, some of the examples that you just gave, right? You have this meeting, you have to show up for a presentation, you have to be pitching. All of that pressure can really build up. And I see it in
Mhm.
myself. This is something I do all the time. I'm constantly thinking about slowpreneurship. And just yesterday, I had to reinstate some of my tech boundaries because I was noticing I was really checking my email a lot when there was
Yeah.
nothing to check. There was nothing there. There's no fires. But because
Yeah.
we are in this cycle, it becomes really difficult to turn it off. And I think it's really interesting what you're saying of that we don't know how to rest. Our
Mm.
nervous systems and our brains have been hijacked. It's not just about the culture we're around, but it's also about the tech that we're encountering, the social media platforms that we're on. All of these things can lead to us feeling like that lack of rest and being a junkie for our businesses, as you said before. I think that's just such a hilarious but also very accurate way to put it. We are kind of junkies for the validation or getting a sale or getting a like on social media, that it makes it
Yeah.
really hard to turn off. But I know that you are really passionate about using technology in a way that is supportive to us. So I'd love to hear you talk more about that and how you personally balance for yourself.
So for me, balancing everything was also, like you said, the use of technology. So I had a beautiful conversation with a friend the other day when it comes to using AI, because we were
Mm,
discussing on the matter of consciousness inside of using AI. But for me, English is my second language, and thanks to AI, I can, tap into ideas a bit more quicker or more efficiently. So
mm,
I use it that way, and it saved me some time. And in the flow of my day-to-day work, using also a bit of technology helped me actually automatize like a few things so that I don't have to carry everything, manually. And so
yeah.
it saved me time, it saved me some energy, and it's the same for my team. And it took me a while in order to reach to that level, and in order to integrate like a policy of no social media or no emails during first hour in the morning, just being more present. So that's the first thing. uh, Introducing that as well for my son. He's 6, so
Mhm.
anytime that I'm on a computer or a screen, so that's been for him, he can come by and check and see, oh, if mommy is on the screen, I can go too, right? And so for me, it
Ah,
was just like slowing down also my screen time per day. I'm trying to pause every 2 hours so that you don't have, this like eye fatigue because you're too
yeah,
much in front of, the screen, whatever screen it is, your cell, your tablet, or your computer. So that's very important. And I
yeah.
think, finding that anchor for me in nature was what helped me the most in order to get that balance on slowing down, because in nature I'm trying not to bring my phone with me,
Mhm.
except when I even because I used to listen a lot to audiobooks or podcast while walking. Now I'm just trying to enjoy the moment. I have nothing in my ears, no technology, no nothing, just the time to enjoy, being more mindful and present inside nature. Another thing I've decided to commit myself to was to go back to music. And that
Mm,
this one is very special to me. I've been playing the harp for since I was 8, but I was always played for myself. And being with the instrument or other musicians, like, it removes the technology, it removes that notion of time, because you practice until you perfect what you have, what you want to accomplish, or what sound you want to produce, right? And so
mm,
it gives me that access to self expressions and navigate into like that notion of time is not at stake here, but the pleasure
mm.
of playing is at stake. And so it took me a little while because I was just like timing everything at some point. And then I it gave me the opportunity to be off screen, off work, off, and opening more space for creativity and thinking things differently. And after that, I introduced like vocal, what I call vocal alchemy. It's like vocal meditation, and
Mm,
singing at the same time with the harp. And then little
mm,
by little, I added activities that didn't require whatsoever performances, but only pleasure. And this is how actually little by little find like a new pace of life, like that is not always running, always like, did I automate this or that, or does it make sense for the business, so that I have something else in mind that, give me the opportunity to be more creative.
Mm. So beautiful and so inspiring. I love hearing you talk about the harp. The harp is such a magical instrument, really. When I think about it, it just feels otherworldly in some way. I had a client who played the harp, who played it on one of our productivity parties once, and it was such an incredible moment for everyone. We were all just sitting there like, so just so many things that you just said, I thought were so interesting and powerful. The thread to nature is one that has been coming up so much in my conversations, and it's something that's so important to
Yeah.
me. But I think the theme of what you just made me think of is introducing practices that help us lose track of time.
Yeah.
Because I think that a big problem in the addictive nature of running a business and constantly feeling like this urgency, this need to respond to everything, is that
Yeah.
we do have this feeling that time is of the essence. Time is
Yeah.
money. We have this relationship with time that is super transactional and really, again, fast paced. It's like
Yeah.
you can't waste any time. You have to be focused. You need to be productive and not like fritter your time away on other things. And I think there's some truth to that, right? Obviously, we don't want to be like scrolling on our phone while also trying to do important work. And yet
Hmm.
at the same time, it's so interesting to hear you talk about how the antidote for you has not been necessarily only just putting up the boundaries against technology. It's more like, rather than fighting the technology, you're just adding something else that's
Hmm.
more inspiring, that helps you lose track of time, that helps you feel connected to yourself. And it almost makes the technology just naturally less appealing because you have all of these other things that you're genuinely excited about pursuing and being creative with them. So I just feel like that for me has landed, hearing you talk about it, of how can I introduce more things that really help me lose track of time rather than trying to decide how to use my time in a better way. It's just like, forget that. Just do anything that helps you feel free.
Yeah. And I mean, whenever you're stuck, let's say you're stuck with, I don't know, whatever you, something technical or a client project or something, and then you push harder, on trying to figure it out, like, to find that, and then you take a step back, you go in nature, you do something else, and then you come back and voila, in a second,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's that, I think, spaciousness, consciousness that give you that space in order to grow, expand, and do things differently. And I think society has, society is telling us like you need to be boxed in every way, but actually
Mm.
our brain need that space in order to evolve, to change, and to bring more notion that will help us actually solve more maybe problems, or enjoy more pleasure when it comes to navigating inside our businesses and tapping
Yeah.
into more creativity. And I think we, as entrepreneurs, we tend to forget that because we're measuring our success just based on result, result, result. But for me, today, the result is not only just the money I have in my bank account, because I do believe that not all money is good money. You can
Mm.
have millions of clients, but if these clients are not aligned with your values, the right position client for you, what does it do? Like, you just, in the end, you will start resenting your business because it's not exactly what you desire, what you want. And so, in that sense, this is what over the last couple of years I've tried to work on, and I'm still working on it, simply because I think it's an ongoing work, right? Finding that self-expression that will help you be in your own flow, be in your own slow, if I may say,
Oh, I love
and
that.
and and make sure that at the end of the day you're happy with the journey that you're deciding to be on. And we also
Mm.
forget that, like, being an entrepreneur, yes, it's tough. It's really tough. There's no other way to put it. But you don't have to suffer all the way simply because you decide to create something.
Hmm. Yeah. But I think it's also important. to recognize that it is about making that decision. You know, you talked about
Yeah.
how uh, you have this idea, this concept that I love called "Slow is Good." That's the name of your podcast. But how do you influence people? So if maybe people are on the fence and they feel like slow still feels like kind of a bad word, you know, it's like a naughty word, like it represents laziness, or it represents you know, a lack of strategy, or it's not what we want in business. We want business to grow really fast. Like, what do you say to those people, or what's your pitch for slowpreneurship to help people
I
get on
mean,
board?
I don't have exactly the quote in English, but Lao Tzu, which is who is a Chinese philosopher, is saying like nature. Well, I'm just going to paraphrase here, but nature
Yeah.
does what it does, right? It doesn't
Mm,
go faster, right? You cannot pressure nature to grow more flowers because you want to,
mm,
right? Or if you do, there are consequences. But we're not gonna talk about this today, but simply it's a matter of you need to take the time. You need to go through things little by little. And it's not because you're pressuring yourself, accelerating, like, that you get what you want and what you need. And this is exactly what I say and pitch to people is like, okay, you went fast, fast, fast. Look at the numbers now. If you want to talk business on that, look at the numbers. Because you went so fast, are you reaching exactly the potential that you were expecting? Most of the answers that I receive for most of the entrepreneurs I'm working with is no, because everything takes time. Sometimes you think like by connecting with 100% you'll be able to close them, and I hate that word for connecting with people. You'll be able to
yeah.
close them by the end of the
Close the
day, but
sale.
yeah,
Yeah.
but reality is people need to get connections to feel you, understand you exactly emotionally, right? And so it means that it takes time to create, to bond with people. And business is
Yeah.
also about that, these connections. So, like for a longevity kind of connections. And it's not happening in less than a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's the hard part for people to accept, again, because we don't have enough models. We don't have enough stories. I find a lot of my clients will feel frustrated, like, this is taking way longer than I thought it would take. I hear that so often. You know, I
Yeah.
thought I would get more done this week, or I thought I would be further along in this project by now. And there's that feeling that we're doing something wrong. But I really
Mm,
do feel like the reason we feel like we're doing something wrong is just because we're not actually comparing ourselves to the right stories. We're only
mm-hmm.
comparing ourselves to the stories that look like they happened super quickly or overnight. We don't get to see the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so I just love that you're kind of reframing that for people of, yeah, you can go fast, 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 but how is that working out for you? Do you feel like you would be able to continue in this way? I
Yeah.
think sometimes people can sustain it in the short term, right? Your
Mm,
experience at the startup for a short period of time, you did it and you were feeling like you were working towards your goal. But the problem isn't that we can do it in a short time. The problem is most of us want to do our businesses for a long time. And
yeah.
it's not going to be possible if we're not building intentionality into the way that we're building our business.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And more than
Yeah.
that, it's just that what is it that we're sharing with, the next generation too?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's a real important question, right? So, my son comes with me sometimes to meetings, like,
Uh,
he's sometimes like showing his head, like, mommy, what you're doing. And then for me, it's important sometimes to let him know that it's okay to slow down. It's okay sometimes to go a little bit faster, but to have a pace that is sustainable for him, for us. And it's the same thing in motherhood. Like, a lot of my friends used to say, "Oh yeah, you have to take them to soccer this Tuesday and ice skating on Friday." And I said, "No,
mm,
I'm not doing any of that. I'm doing what I can and what is sustainable from an energetic like perspective for me, not specifically because all the moms community is doing it." And so it's
right.
also important to remove that peer pressures on anything that we decide to do, whether it is business, whether it is like motherhood, even like friendship sometimes, doesn't matter. It's just like we need to make sure that we do things for the good reasons, but also for our own benefits somehow, and in a way that is sustainable for long term.
Yeah. And it's so important to check in with ourselves, right? A lot of the things that you're talking about are, I realized that this wasn't a sustainable pace for me, or with my child, I only want to do one activity a week. But all of that requires looking inward instead of our habit, which is really to look outward all the time.
Mhm.
And I do think that part of the reason why we're looking outward so much is also because of this fast paced world that we're living in. We don't have
Yeah.
enough time. So, because we don't have enough time to look inward, we're like, what is everyone else doing? I'll just do that, because we're just reacting. And the easiest way
Yeah.
to react is just to look outside of ourselves. So,
Yeah.
it does really start with embracing the mindset that we have to believe that slow is good. We have to believe that we can have everything that we're looking
Yeah.
for in a slower paced way.
Mhm.
And it starts with that choice, right?
Yeah.
Until you make that choice of believing that that's possible, it's not going to be something you take steps towards, because you really just won't have the chance to do that. But I would love to hear you kind of talk about what are some of you can kind of talk about this in one of two ways. When you realized you need to slow down, like what were some of the first steps that you made? Or, tell us about if you have a new client who is dipping their toe into slowpreneurship, but doesn't know how to start. What do you usually tell them? What are some of the easy things we can do to start with?
So to answer the first part of your question, so for me, it was kind of traumatic to actually
Mm,
migrate from fast paced to slow paced. I was,
yeah.
I really had like some anxiety attack because I was just like, I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing.
Mm,
Oh my God, I'm
right.
gonna die. I'm doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it took a process, literally, little by little, creating like a roadmap for me to accept that it's okay to slow down. Nothing's
Hmm.
gonna happen if you slow down. Nothing's gonna happen if you don't answer your mail right away or if you don't pick up the phone right away. Nothing's
Hmm.
going to happen if you didn't invoice a client right away. You can't wait. You can reorganize yourself. A lot of people are talking about, productivity hacks like, time boxing and stuff. For me, I
Hmm.
find it like a bit sometimes difficult for me. That's not something that I practice, but I decided to at least allocate lanes in my calendar so that I can do certain things.
Mm,
And after that, it was a matter of introducing more time in nature. So that was a very important practice. And it's going to surprise a lot of people, but start reading something else than any business or personal development books
yeah.
because it will trigger like actions. Oh, I can do this better. I can do this better. I can learn this. I can do that. And trying to introduce more novels. To this day, for me, it's still challenging actually to read anything else than personal development or business related kind of books. And it was just like, accepting that you need to slow your brain a little bit because it's not only about the parts of our body or actions inside the business. It's just like we need to slow down also our brain that is thinking about business all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so adding like, you know, readings around novels, cookbooks, cooking more, a lot of actions that are very traditional and kind of boring to some extent in order to really, in order to make sure that I'm off the computer. I'm not being
Yeah.
busy trying to, think about ads or next courses or whatever it is that we have in our businesses. And then for most of my clients, I usually tell them, like, you need to make sure that in your calendar, yearly calendar, you prioritize first your vacations because
Yes.
most of entrepreneurs never take vacations, right?
I
And
know.
so I usually tell them, like, start with your vacations, your time off, for you to breathe. And then once you've done that, then during the day, see how many, like, time or hours you can allocate just doing things that doesn't require you to be connected to anything so that you can have
Mm,
some times for yourself to think and sometimes even rest if you need to and
yeah.
take the time to go outside or what is it that you need. Even introducing like workouts or even art because art is a great asset in terms of doing something that is not, too pressuring in order to have some activities. So these are typically, I'll tell my client, enjoy yourself and then think about work. And so, yes, I'm
Mm,
going backwards is because we always prioritize like work. And then if we just prioritize work, we can work like 24 hours, 7, right? So, what if
mhm.
we were able to prioritize like, pleasure time and see how we can have fun? And then after that, we see like how we time box, if you want to, like some work so that we always have human, I will say, and non-business activities before.
Mm, yeah. You're flipping the script, right? You're filling up your cup first and then letting that overflow into your business rather than trying to make business the center of your universe, which will never be fulfilling enough really for us.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of underscore that point that you just said about really taking a break from self-improvement. I think self-improvement is such a cult in
Yeah.
our current society of constantly feeling like we need to be doing things better. And I think for a lot of people, especially values based entrepreneurs, we really value personal development. And I think personal development is super important. But the problem
Mm.
is, it's become almost like an addiction where we now feel like we have so many problems that we need to
Mhm.
solve. And we have so much that we need to learn. So I love that concept of taking a break from reading nonfiction that's about personal development, taking a
Mhm.
break from podcasts that are about business, especially in your off hours. That's one that I did recently. I would find myself listening to business podcasts in the evening, and you're like, it's just going to keep you in that loop all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that that's huge. And then I also love this idea that feels really accessible of doing more things with your body and your hands. So you're talking
Yeah.
about cooking, you're talking about walking, you're talking about things that just are completely separate from the brain that you use all the time in your business. I
Yeah.
told this story recently because I had the chance to go and help my partner shoot a wedding.
Mhm.
And um, it felt so restful, even though it was like very physically demanding work. It felt very restful because I was not using the part of my brain I use for my business.
Mhm.
I was doing creative things. I was taking, photos and videos. And I just think that it's so interesting to just sometimes even just take a break, like switch to something else.
Yeah.
And you can be shocked really how restful that can actually feel for yourself.
Yeah.
So love those ideas, and they feel very accessible for people, right? Just insert more of that and these answers will naturally start to come a little bit easier.
You don't have to be crazy things actually to shift things towards a slower pace in life. Like you just need to
Yeah.
go back to your foundations literally and remove a
Yeah.
little bit like an onions. Like you remove, some pieces little by little. And you don't have to do it at once because like a lot of people will
Hmm.
say, no, you have to cut it right now. And actually that reminds me of a friend who actually posted something about the book. I don't remember the name of the author, but Miracle Morning. And as a
Oh,
mom,
yes.
I'm just like, yeah, good luck with that. I'm not saying it's a bad book. I'm just like
I
stating that
read
it's
it.
not a.
It's
I read it. It's just like, how long is this type of productivity is sustainable for the body, for the mind, right? When you don't have maybe, I will say, responsibilities for other beings, it does work absolutely. But after that, I'm not sure. And so that's the reason why thinking about slowing down is important because no matter what you do, at some point, your body needs to race. Your brain needs some pause so that you can be more productive, more creative, and get the result that you want inside whatever it is that you're creating.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to remember for all of us how many industries rely on us feeling like we are not doing enough. That always is something that triggers, some anger in me. That can fuel me, because I think of somebody like Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning. It's a super successful book. Tons of people get
Yeah.
behind it. I, again, not saying it doesn't work for certain people, but his whole business relies on you feeling like your morning routine is not good enough, not optimized enough. If you miss
Yeah.
a single day, you are, screwing up your productivity for the whole week. And
Yeah.
it's just not just about mornings. It's also about what we're eating and
Yeah.
how we're sleeping. And there's infinite ways that we could buy another course to do
Yeah.
something better. We could buy another program that will fix us because we're broken somehow. And I think it's really important for us all to remember, like, we're fine. Like
Yeah.
there's a way of improving skills without feeling like you need to improve yourself and feeling that anxiety that you're not good enough or your business is not good enough, and that being the thing that fuels you and
Yeah.
pushes you forward. So that's just a good reminder for me. Like, Miracle Morning was not written for someone who has kids. Miracle Morning was not written for
Absolutely
someone.
not.
Yeah. So it's just important to remember, like, it's not a neutral recommendation. It doesn't take into account context
Yeah.
when it makes those
And
recommendations.
you said it right, actually. Using the term fixed for a
Yeah.
human is like, what do we have to fix, actually? We
Right.
can evolve, we can shift, we can transform,
Hmm.
we can transmute things, but do we have to fix? What is it that we have to fix?
Yeah. I know. I think that a huge part of that, and this has been coming up a lot in my conversations recently, has been really trying to find true connection with other people who understand things the way that I understand things. That is the best way I have found to feel okay. So a lot of these
Hmm.
courses and books and things that we're searching for, it's to feel like we're okay, we're doing things right, we're on the right track. But those things never actually make us feel like we're okay. They always make us feel like we have to do more and be
Yeah.
better. And what actually helps is talking to your friends, talking to your peers, talking to people in your industry, and realizing, like, we're all dealing with the same things. We're all struggling. Like, this conversation with you is really meaningful for me because it makes me realize, like, there's so much out there that I could be applying in my business.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by you. I love knowing that you're out there doing your work in the world while I'm doing my work in the world. And I think that that community piece is so critical. And yet it's the thing
Hmm.
that isn't always present when we take like a course or read a book. So I would love for you to talk more about the Slowpreneur Summit, because I think this is a way that you
Yes.
are introducing community into our community. So can you talk to us about that and that project and kind of what it's
Yes.
for?
I'm kind of so excited to talk about the Slowpreneur Summit. So we started last year the first MVP like edition in Montreal,
Yeah,
and for me that was a way to gather people around and talk about what is it slowpreneurship exactly,
yeah,
because still people, I find that they need to have like a better understanding of what is at stake when it comes to entrepreneurship. And then it
yeah,
was to introduce like another way of networking, of creating connections and bonding with people, with like-minded people. So there was this first part. So I received a lot of comment from last year saying, like, because of Montreal, it was Franglish, and so
ah,
we decided to make it different for this year. So we decided to do a French edition and an English edition that will come this fall in October 2023. And what we wanted with the summit is to tap into three lanes of expertise: business design, but also invisible, what we call the invisible. I don't know how to translate well in English, but meaning like anything spiritual, anything,
mm,
that we have to take into consideration inside our businesses and journey as well as individuals, but also leadership and from a
mm,
regenerative perspective. And so that's three dimensions and pillar that we wanted to grow and create the summit on. And this year, I've partnered with one of my mentor, Emily Gros. She's actually a pioneer in the field. She's been around discussing slowpreneur subjects and issues and challenge for the last, I think, 15 years, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, around that time. And for me, that was very natural to partner with her so that we can communicate to more people and more expert that, you know, no matter what field you're in, no matter industry you're in, tech, finance, coaching, photography, slowing down is good for you, but not only you. It's good for your peers, it's good for your clients, but it's also good for the
Yeah.
planet. So there's this commitment to the environment that is also important. And we wanted to bring that dimension also of, diversity, but neurodiversity, cultural diversity, all these aspects as well that are very important in our businesses. And I find it brilliant that we were able to bridge that so that we have access to more than 30 speakers for the French edition that will be able to answer all these subjects. And what also we really had at heart is just to make sure that people take these workshop conferences that then they're able to integrate, because what's happening in most of Summit, you ingest bazillion workshops and information, then you're just like, what do I do?
Right.
And so for us, it was very important to have a segment where people can have access to a toolkit, a very pragmatic and easy to use toolkit, so that they can, okay, I don't know how I can become a slowpreneur, or maybe I'm not ready to slowpreneurship yet, and I want to find more flow, more ease, and more serenity, and make some good, in life and inside my business. And so all these notions are the foundation of the reason why we decided to create this 2023 edition. And I mean, for us, it was just like we have to share this with the world, and we also have to expand on the fact that people need to be able to network differently without that pressure of, do you have a business card, do you have a business card? Is not about that. It's more about, yes, for some people it's going to sound cheesy, but loving, connecting with people, on a human level, not necessarily on only a transactional level.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful, so needed, just so amazing to find out that this thing that I feel needs to exist in the world is already, in the process of existing thanks to you and Emily. So I just am really excited to know about it. I think it's just a really beautiful thing because I go to conferences sometimes. I went to Alt Summit recently and
Yeah.
everybody was asking me if I had a business card and it's like, no. Do people still do that? People gave me their business cards and I just put them in the recycling bin. Like I followed them on Instagram, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry a business card around. Like we just need new ways. So
Yeah.
I feel really inspired to know that you're doing this in a new way and really building those true connections. So I'm really excited to follow along and know what you're
I,
up to in the world. It's just amazing.
yes. And I want to
Yeah.
add I'm just expanding the invitation to you for the English version of the summit. If you'd like to join me and Emily, we'll be so pleased to have you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. That would be such a dream. Such a dream. Okay, so I want to wrap up because I want to respect your time and make sure that we end on
Yeah.
a good note. But I have some questions that I typically ask all my guests, the same 4 questions, just to learn
Mhm.
a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
No pressure. They're relaxed reflections. This is not a rapid fire round, as I always like to say. But let's get into it, okay? So, number 1, how do you take your tea or your coffee if you drink coffee?
Black coffee.
Oh, okay. I
Nothing.
love it.
Just
I love
black.
it. Oh, yes. Okay, great. Number 2, what is the best book that you've read lately?
In the Praise of Slow from Carl Honoré.
Oh, yes. I've heard about this one. I have it on my list. Did you like it?
I enjoyed it, every bit of it. And
Okay, I'm gonna
actually, it's
have
on
to.
my rereading list for this year.
Ooh. Okay, I gotta have to ask you about that. You have a rereading list for every year? That's amazing.
Yes, because simply sometimes there are books that are so good and influence my creativity and stuff that I want to
Yeah.
do, that sometimes I put like a notes for the year after, like to read it at a certain time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna have to implement that practice. That is so cool. Okay, third one. Where is your favorite place on earth?
Well, my answer is going to sound cheesy, but favorite
It's okay.
place
My favorite are the cheesy answers.
is just to be in my son's bedroom. I like his environment. He's like everything. I love it.
So cute. That's so
I know it
sweet.
sounds
I
cheesy.
love that. I know, it's the best. It's the best. It's the best. So beautiful. Okay, and last one. This is more like a little bit of fun, but what is something that you would currently really like to get yourself as a gift? Or if you did recently buy yourself a gift, what was it?
That's a good question. Oh, well, I do like to gift myself with sound bath.
Ooh.
Yeah, some
Ooh,
sound
I
bath
love that.
events or experiences. I love that. It's so, I mean, if you never have been to one of these, you have to
Okay. Oh,
try.
that sounds amazing. I've been to sort of certain events where they were playing kind of, the singing bowls and things like that, but I've never been to a sound bath. And
A
I think that I'm
sound
gonna
bath,
have to try
it's,
it after this.
yeah, a sound bath is a mix of singing bowl. You can have didgeridoo, you can have harp, other instrument, you can have singing, like, but it's on the body, it's better than a massage.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna have to check it out. That is a great answer. I love that. Well, Geraldine, thank you so much for being here. I can't thank you enough for making the time and just for being a light in the world of slowpreneurship. I'm so happy that we are connected now, and I'm excited to get to be a part of your work as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to Slowpreneur. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend or reach out and let me know at hello@stephaniepellet.com. I would love to hear from you. As always, you can find show notes for this and all episodes at stephaniepellet.com/slowpreneur. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.